Kitchen. Actually, this is my wife Sharon's kitchen, but she occasionally allows me to do some batch cooking and some canning here. I know she enjoys the sauce. That is my spaghetti sauce. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to take about 2/3 of what you see here on the table and fill the pot with them after I have taken the core out, the top, the stem, and just the good stuff goes in here, along with all of the seeds and the skins. A lot of trouble to remove the skins and the seeds. I would take a food mill, and oh my, it took me an hour and a half or 2 hours to just mill all that. But I discovered that the sauce is just as good, if not better, with the skins and the seeds, given how I prepare the sauce. So I usually fill this pot with tomatoes, this time of year especially, and I spend quite a few hours simmering it down so that the sauce can become more concentrated and thicken. This is a 16-quart pot, and I'll be able to simmer it down to about 12 quarts after about 6 to 8 hours. And then I will take a stick blender like this, and I will blend it into a creamy sauce so that you can't even see a piece of the skins. It is then that I add the onions, the 10-15 onions. I will take these onions, usually about 7 to 8 big ones for that amount of sauce, and I will put them through a food processor and chop them up really fine by doing that. And then I will cook them. This is before I mix them with the tomato sauce. I want as much surface area as possible while these cook, and they cook in tomato juice so that I can evaporate and concentrate. I don't want to put a lot of liquid all at once into the pot. It'll take forever to simmer down. So more area space for evaporation is better. I will also add to the onion while it's cooking my basil and oregano. Now I try to use fresh basil and fresh oregano, but if you instead are using dried parts and pieces, you'll be using about a half a cup of basil and a half a cup of oregano for that process. I will also add to it about a cup of garlic, and I told you that that's the one ingredient I do not grow. I wish I had more area space outside that had full sun, but I don't. I really don't have any of that. I will also add to the sauce 2 16-ounce containers of mushrooms that I will destem and quarter. And I will also take my Swiss chard, usually about 2 dozen leaves about this size. I'll pull them off the stem and the leaves, and I will then cut them down and chop it up into about 1 inch by 1 inch pieces, and that all goes nicely and neatly into the sauce. The diet that my wife and I are on is a heart-healthy diet, so we try to use very little salt in our meals, and I try to use very little salt in my spaghetti sauce. So I do it to taste, and so I estimate, but salt-wise, only a bit. I will do it knowing that when it is eventually served hot on the plate as an entree, as our meal, I will then sprinkle just a little bit on the top, the outside of the sauce, and eat it that way, knowing that the first bit that hits my tongue is going to have some of that salt, so it'll have that nice tangy, salty taste, but very little salt is actually in the sauce. There's one other ingredient that I use in the sauce, and that is pepper. I prefer to use Lawry's seasoned pepper, and I use about 1/4 cup of this in 12 quarts of sauce. So, after I've added all these ingredients, I will then let the sauce simmer down for about an hour, letting all those flavors just blend together, and it is delicious. There you have it, my recipe. But there is one more ingredient that I need to mention. After I've canned the sauce and put the cans on my shelving, there actually needs to be one more ingredient before heating it up and serving it over pasta. I always add a 12-ounce can of tomato paste to every quart of my sauce before heating and serving. It makes the sauce consistency as well as the taste so much better. And my sauce never runs when served. No brag, just fact. So now I should tell you that if you use a tomato that is less acidic than a celebrity tomato, then you may need to add a certain amount of bottled lemon juice or citric acid for the process of using a water bath canner to effectively can your sauce and seal your lids tight. If there's not enough acidity, it won't seal. For the most accurate and safe methods of canning and for the safest recipes for spaghetti canning, I need to refer you to the website for the National Center for Home Food Preservation, where they have charts and graphs and safe recipes for canning. I just know that my celebrity tomatoes and my spaghetti sauce has never failed in the canning process, and the jars in my pantry are good for 4 years. But I need to tell you that they don't last nearly that long in our house. Okay, now we need to fast forward to the canning phase of this operation.